Welcome to 2Heads Talks. Today we're talking about R&D and more specifically we're talking about the challenges faced with socially distanced events and also touching, or not, on contactless interactive technology.
So we've been working with aerospace giant Airbus for a number of years now, and we have been able to really delve deep into their requirements of how they want their customers to engage at a show. Also to make sure that customers feel that they don't have to speak to people, they can have that exploration themselves without having to feel the need to straight away go up and speak. So we developed a transparent screen totem that was the welcome point to the stand. From that, they were able to find product spec sheets, they were able to look for information regarding specific helicopters, but they were also able to understand who was the right business contact to speak to on the stand for their needs. So you were able to touch, not anymore, but that's what we're going to look at, is touch through all the different areas and then deep dive into the information they required. With the limits that we're going to have now with the COVID regulations, what can we do to evolve this technology to still allow Airbus to use the content that we've already developed for them, but in the new ways?
Okay, I mean, yeah, I think the best way to tackle this is to talk about maybe 3 specific areas of technology that can be used to enable gestured control. Essentially, that's what we're looking at. So, number 1. We could set up a projection map on the floor, track people, and we can actually track the movement of their feet and have a large-scale interactive piece that will enable them to interact with content. Secondly, we have the same sort of technology, but rather than something tracking from above, you can track straight in front, and it will track gestures. It'll even track your fingers, so you can do certain gestures with your hands, and it will interact and do different things. And then the third piece of technology is a device that you can place on a surface, and it will then track everything above it. So you can then move your hands, and it's more like using a touchscreen, but without the actual physical contact. Those are sort of 3, fairly widely used areas. Now, specifically, you've asked about a sort of interactive totem type area. There are 2 initial ways that I would look at. The third piece of technology, having a gesture controlled device and a screen to try and replicate that as closely as possible, or go big, go for a scaled up version, have a screen at a 45-degree angle where you're projecting onto, so it gives the impression of almost like a hologram, and then have gesture control using an IR camera or something similar, and be able to interact with a massive transparent display.
So, how do I do this with smaller budgets?
Smaller budgets.
Because that's the issue that we're going to face, is a lot of customers and clients of ours are having to tighten the belts, as most people are during the COVID timeframe. Digital, I feel, sometimes brings up that big worry for customers, for clients, is that digital costs more because there's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
Are these cost-effective solutions, and can they be, once built, rolled out across many shows?
So, in a word, yes. The technology out there is not hugely expensive, and there's also, we've already done in-house a lot of development around it. So we're able to implement these technologies in a very cost-efficient manner. The thing to remember here is that whilst before you may have a touchscreen, you can actually save costs, because suddenly you don't have that expensive interactive element. You can take that away and put a normal screen in, or you can focus on different areas hiring a projector or something along those lines. And in doing so, there are ways of actually putting in some really interesting technology for about the same cost, if maybe a little bit more, but very much still.
And there's definite scalability
focused.
To it, isn't there?
Certainly, yeah, scalability and portability as well.
Yeah.
We're not talking about huge installations unless that's what the client wants. If they want a totem with a way of interacting with that, then we can build that in the same footprint that the current technology is in place.
So how do we get away from customers using iPads as a supportive device to allow customers to deep dive into products?
The way to tackle this is to look at the challenge in hand. We want to be able to deliver content in a portable manner to our clients' customers, and we need to do it in the most cost-effective way. We can't give them iPads that are shared amongst many people.
No touch.
So no touch.
No touch.
No touch. So we have to look at what we've got available to us. Most people carry a smartphone. Most smartphones, straight out the box, have the ability to scan QR codes and to direct that phone straight to a purpose-built site which has all of the content and media that the client wants to deliver to the customer.
And it can also enhance what the client is coming from the event by data capture, I guess, because most of the time if someone stood at a stand scrolling through an iPad, they're not going to get the data from that. Actually, if their customers are having to log on to a web portal, they could actually put a level of data capture into it as well.
Absolutely, and I mean, why not go one step further and gamify it? So suddenly you have the ability, the more things that they touch in on, the more points that they raise or something along those lines, get a certain number and they can enter into a draw to win an iPad.
Everybody loves competition.
The iPad that they couldn't get
because they're not allowed to touch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But as well as QR, you've also got NFC, which some phones can tackle as well. NFC stands for near field communication. Put simply, it's the technology that's used in your bank card when you tap in to pay for something. And it allows communication to send information through to a device. Again, you can point that device straight through to a website or even to an application.
Excellent. Does sound very cost effective.
It is cost effective.
Yeah, and that is what my clients like to hear. Don't we all?